morning. All right, so my name is Charles Pifus. I am the historian for the Alpha Lambda chapter of Alpha Phi Alpha Fraternity Incorporated, as well as the secretary of the Alpha Lambda Education Foundation. We are so pleased to have each of you, our esteemed guests, here for the 11th annual Hope Breakfast. So the moment that I am truly here to do is introduce our wonderful mistress of ceremonies, and that is Miss Carrie Grace. She is an anchor for WLKY-TV, Channel 32 here in Louisville, Kentucky. She's a native of Middle Tennessee who graduated magna cum laude from the University of Memphis, where she studied broadcast journalism and Spanish. She previously worked at WLOX in Biloxi, Mississippi, where she covered her fair share of tropical storms and hurricanes. And I don't know if they had too much snow down in Mississippi, but we know that you were able to cover everything that it had to offer. When she's not covering a story, she and her husband, Greg, who's a member of Alpha Phi Alpha Fraternity Incorporated, can be found watching the Lakers, the Tennessee Titans, and of course the Memphis Tigers. But watching TV is even harder these days because they are raising their young daughter and twin boys who keep them extremely busy. One thing I was talking to Carrie about in the lobby before we came in was her love of Publix. And I was thinking about that because I know we recently opened one here in Louisville, and it looked like, it was like a bomb rush there. And I asked her, has she already been to Publix? And she said, no, I hadn't been to the one here yet, but I did go yesterday when I was in Tennessee. So I was like, well, that's on brand then. I got that right, that you love Publix. So she is grateful for motherhood, and then also she is a wonderful, wonderful member of the illustrious sorority, Alpha Kappa Alpha Sorority Incorporated. So without further ado, I bring up our MC, Ms. Carrie Grace.
We'll have to abbreviate that next time. Thank you so much. I'm so honored to be back. I did have Publix yesterday, Publix subs, so if you like pub subs, then go try them out. They're great. We're glad to have one here. Thank you again for having me at this wonderful event, 11 years. This is my second year back to MC for you all, and it is always so nice to see everyone here to support this wonderful cause. Again, I'm Carrie Grace with WLKY News, and I want to quickly shout out my sorors on this Founders Day. You look sharp in the pink and green, ladies. We will start things off this morning with greetings. I would like to invite Representative Morgan McGarvey as well as Mayor Craig Greenberg to the stage.
Good morning. I was just talking to the mayor. He goes, no, you go first. You go first. So I'll say, first of all, thank you to the mayor. We are all here this morning. Thank you to the members of Alpha Phi Alpha Incorporated. And thank you to the mayor and to all the people on the mayor's team who had our roads ready this morning to get us all here safely. I tell you, it's truly an honor to be here with everyone this morning. I do a lot of public speaking. I give a lot of speeches around town. But I'm just going to be honest with you, and let's keep it real this morning. I'm intimidated. I'm intimidated to speak to this room on this day. When I'm looking at people who I know, who marched with our civil rights icons, Georgia Davis Powers, May Street Kid, Blaine Hudson, Dr. King himself, right? People who have been in the struggle and fought, Minority Leader Gerald Neal, right? It's intimidating for me to be here without that lived experience to try and talk to you about the importance of Martin Luther King Day. But it is still important that the people in office recognize why we must be here today, where we have been, where we are, and where we must go. So in public speaking, there are a few rules that I'll lean on while being intimidated. Number one, be brief. I'll do my best. I don't want the eggs to get cold. Number two, and this is a good one, the first time you give a quote from somebody, you have to say, Mayor Craig Greenberg said this. The next time you use it, you get to say, as has been said. The third time you use a quote, you get to go, as I have said previously. Which reminds me of one of my favorite quotes from Dr. Martin Luther King. And I think of this quote often in Washington, D.C., which is, the arc of the moral universe is long, but bends toward justice. What I didn't know until recently is he might have borrowed that himself. There was an abolitionist preacher, Theodore Parker, who in a sermon in 1853, he wrote, I do not pretend to understand the moral universe. The arc is a long one. My eye reaches but little ways. I cannot calculate the curve and complete the figure by the experience of sight. I can divine it by conscience, and from what I see, it bends toward justice. Now, of course, Martin Luther King didn't know about character counts in Twitter, but he certainly shortened it and made it better. And we shouldn't be surprised that he is using the words of an abolitionist preacher, getting rid of America's original and awful sin of slavery in the struggle for civil rights. Because the reality is, the abolitionists and what happened in the Civil War did not free slaves. Fired them. And it kept a system of oppression going through legal discrimination for 100 years that made it legal to deny people housing, to tell people where they could live, who they could marry, where they could go to school, where they could drink, whether they could get a loan from a bank. Dr. Martin Luther King leaned on the teachings of the abolitionists and, of course, as a preacher, the moral universe, to take us where we need to go. The question is, are we there? Dr. King asked the same question. Right? And so as we stand here today, the streets are cleared, but man, is it cold. I'm not even embarrassed that I have on long underwear. Listen, I got to do that. Reverend Elliott's still doing a march today. Listen, guys, I got to be in long underwear. But I think back to 30 years ago. 30 years ago, for those of you native Louisvillians, you know this was the winter apocalypse. The snow of '94. I was a kid. I've never seen so much snow in my life as we saw 30 years ago today. So we gather here 30 years later, and yes, it's still cold outside, but there is a different storm brewing. This is a storm that Dr. King predicted. The last book he wrote, where do we go from here? Chaos or community? Maybe that looked forward to the storm we see today, where the Supreme Court has attacked affirmative action and gutted the Voting Rights Act, where the United States Congress is seeking to defund diversity, equity, and inclusion efforts from all parts of our government, where the Kentucky State General Assembly is looking to get rid of policies that level the playing field and the commonality and purpose of things like our public schools, where we have a former president of the United States who is the front runner for the caucuses in Iowa tomorrow, who said just last week that the Civil War should have been negotiated. Slavery? Negotiated? Compromised? There is no compromise, right? And what we have to choose right now, as we sit here today and we do the important work of honoring Dr. King, is to recognize where we must go. Chaos or community? all of us having the opportunity to go forward. And so today is the easy part. To sit here, to remember, to reflect, but to recharge. To recognize that some of these institutions are still very much under attack, and that we must continue to go forward and make sure that we do what the moral universe commands, the arc of justice bending in our favor. As the preacher Dr. Martin Luther King would appreciate, there is moral authority for this. God was asked one direct question in the Bible, in Micah 6:6. And Micah 6:8, he responded when asked, "What do you expect of us?" To do justice, love mercy, and walk humbly. To do justice, to act justly. And that is reflected again in the New Testament, in Matthew chapter 7, verse 24, when he says, those who hear my words and acts on them will have a house made of rock. Our house needs to be built on rock, where we come together and do justice. So thank you all for having me here today. Thank you for what all of you have done to bring us to this point, and to make sure that after we recharge today, we continue to move forward and reach that mountaintop together. I am honored to be your ally on the journey.
Great job, Congressman Garvey. Thank you very much. And it is wonderful. Rachel and I are so thrilled to be with everyone here this morning. And it is always wonderful when you brave the cold weather and then you're welcomed by all of the bright, shining, amazing colors of the Divine Nine. We are thrilled to be with you here this morning. And thank you so much to the Alpha Lambda Education Foundation for your incredible work in supporting young people in our community, not just today with this important event, but every day, and especially for your work to support and encourage Black men throughout our community. You all are making a difference, and our administration looks forward to partnering with you in the months and years ahead to continue to make a positive impact on our community. We are joined today by some other amazing public servants. We've got our deputy mayor and former award winner from this breakfast, Barbara Sexton Smith, whose birthday it is today. Our amazing chief of police, Jackie Gwynn Villaroel, and also some of our close partners on Metro Council, Councilman Philip Baker, Councilwoman Donna Purvis are here. Representative Keturah Herron, who's fighting the good fight in Frankfurt for us all, and our relatively new Commonwealth Attorney, Jarena Weathers, is also here. And I may have run the risk of missing some folks. If I missed any elected officials, my apologies. I did not see you before this started, but welcome. And I want to give one final shout out to a good friend who you're going to hear from more later, who, along with Carol Jones Clay, I had the honor of giving the Martin Luther King Keeper of the Dream Freedom Award to last night, an amazing public servant who's done great things for his district here in Louisville, for our entire city, for our entire state and country, Senator Gerald Neal. Congratulations on the award, and thank you for your service. As I've been reflecting back on the life and legacy of Dr. King, I've thought about the progress that we've made, the amazing contributions that these public servants who I just mentioned, most of whom are Black, are making right now for our city and our state. And how during Dr. King's time, that was not the case. To have a Black woman as our city's police chief, to have Senator Neal in his position leading the minority caucus in the entire state of Kentucky's Senate. And you think about that great progress, it's impossible to also not think about the frustration that we have still not gone far enough. That we are living in a divided world today, maybe as much as ever before. A world where there are people and organizations that every day do so much to try to divide us through words, through action, through social media, through any way possible to create division. As mayor, I want to bring us together. Regardless of your race, regardless of the circumstances of life that you were born into, we all have so much more in common than we do apart. We all want great educations for our kids. We all want everyone in our city to live a safer life. We all want to have a good paying career path job. We all want everyone that we love and care about to have a quality, affordable home. But for some reason, not everybody wants to bring us together. And so as we think about channeling the life and legacy of Dr. King, not just today on MLK Day, but every day, for those of us in public service, for everyone in every way that you live their life, let's focus on what we can do to bring us together. There have been some great examples of that already this weekend. On Saturday night, the Louisville Orchestra and St. Stephen's Choir brought us together through some amazing music. Last night at the Kentucky Center for the Performing Arts, wonderful artists performed to again bring us together. And as I just mentioned, it's not just the arts, but really we all want the same things in life. So I hope that over the coming days, months, and weeks, we can all work together with many others throughout our city to bring us together in many, many ways, to overcome the divides that still exist. And when we talk about making progress, it's not just lip service. So that when we are making investments as a city in neighborhoods and people that have been overlooked for our entire lifetime, it's not just making an investment and checking the box, but it's making an investment and making world-class investments. For example, we just saw a great new park open in our city, the Alberta Jones Park in the California neighborhood. That's right. In memory of an amazing trailblazing woman, Alberta Jones. That is not just a park in the California neighborhood, a neighborhood that needs more than just a park. But that is one of the best parks in our entire city. That's what the California neighborhood deserves. And when we break ground on the new Algonquin pool in just a few weeks, it's not just a slight renovation. That's right. It's not just a slight renovation of the pool, but we are going to build the best pool in the entire city in Algonquin Park, because that's what Algonquin deserves. And so I look forward to you not just making investments in neighborhoods and people that have been overlooked, not just since Dr. Martin Luther King's time, but for all time. But I look forward to making world-class investments across this entire city with you all to continue to work together to make our city more equitable, more fair, to ensure that everyone has an opportunity to succeed regardless of what circumstances of life he or she was born into. And together, it is my honor to be your mayor to keep working to build a safer, stronger, and healthier Louisville. Thank you all very much.
Thank you again to Representative McGarvey and Mayor Greenberg for being with us today. Mayor Greenberg did steal a little bit of my thunder because I want to acknowledge all of our elected officials in the building, and our community leaders. So if you would please stand when I say your name. Again, we have Congressman Morgan McGarvey, Mayor Greg Greenberg, Miss Barbara Sexton Smith, Senator Gerald Neal, State Representative Keturah Herron, Councilman Philip Baker, Councilwoman Paula McCraney, Judge Denise Brown, Judge Tracy Davis, Reverend Dr. Corey Scholl, Ebony Page, and Camille White. Thank you all for being here with us. Thank you for the good work that you do in our community. And again, thank you to everybody who braved the single-digit temperatures to get here this morning. Now we will have greetings from the Alpha Lambda Chapter President, Derek Bell.
Good morning. How's everyone doing? Great, great. So it feels like family right now, so I feel like I'm at home. So I want to first thank you guys for showing up and supporting our organization once again for another year. We're hoping to have a successful event, and it's only by the hands of you guys and what you've got poured into our organization. So please give yourself a hand for this continued support that you guys give us. So I'm honored to be the president of the Alpha Lambda chapter. This chapter was chartered here locally in the community on April 11th, 1911. So we've been in the community for years, and we've been providing and trying to uplift the community through all of our different community service efforts. But those efforts cannot be done without the help of the brothers that are in the room, also all the different community leaders as well. So some of the things that we do, we have a lot of different signature programs. We do a Voteless People is a Hopeless People, which is a voter education and participation drive. And also we do Project Alpha, which basically helps motivate kids and provide them with life skills to help them fight those life journeys that they're going to go through. In addition to that, we also have a signature program called Alpha Academy. It's go to high school, go to college. And in this room today, we have several people from Alpha Academy. I asked them to stand from W.E.B. Du Bois, and also the administrators from W.E.B. Du Bois. This program is a program where we go to W.E.B. Du Bois and work with the students on a monthly basis and try to teach them different life skills. We introduce them to things that they might not have been introduced to. And every day that I go to see them, they impress me. They bring hope into this world because these are the future leaders. So as we discuss and as we talk about things today, and as you guys listen to the speakers, please remember you guys play a part in re-energizing and reaffirming the foundation of the future that they're going to take over. So with that being said, I want to thank you guys for your time and your efforts, and also I'm thankful for you to come out with it being so cold, but I'm really assured that once you leave, you're going to have a heart that's full and recharged and warm. So we can definitely promise that we'll make sure that you guys leave here happy and full and recharged for from the event. So thank you guys for your continued support, and we can't do this without you, and we're looking forward to a great event. So sit back and relax, and you're going to see some great speakers here in a second. So thank you.
And I'm sure a nice hot breakfast helps as well, right? I would now like to ask everyone to stand as we sing Lift Every Voice and Sing.
I am Brother Adrian Baker, and this song is more than a song. It's the dissertation of a lifetime. So if we can sing, we're going to sing the first and the third verses. I was prepared to sing all three, so y'all bear with me as we got to skip that one. It's just going to juggle my head a little bit. So, to the business. Lift every voice and sing till earth and heaven ring, ring with the harmonies of liberty. Let our rejoicing rise high as the listening skies. Let it resound loud as the rolling sea. Sing a song full of the faith that the dark past has brought us. Sing a song full of the hope that the present has brought on us. Facing the rising sun of our new day begun. Let us march on till victory is one, and God of our weary years, God of our silent tears, thou who hast brought us thus far on the way, thou who hast by thy might led us into the light, keep us forever in the path we pray, lest our feet stray from the places, our God, where we met thee, lest our hearts, drunk with the wine of the world, we forget thee. Shadowed beneath thy hand, may we forever stand, true to our God, true to our native land.
Amen. Y'all sound good, and you didn't forget the words. There we go. We are going to move on now to the introduction of our speakers. We are going to kick things off with Elder John Hatton.
Good morning and welcome to the 2024 Hope Breakfast. My name is Edler John Hatton Jr., and I am honored to be speaking with you today as a member of the Martin Luther King Jr. Honors Scholarship Program and as a brother of the Alpha Phi Alpha Fraternity Incorporated by way of Alpha Pi chapter at the University of Louisville. First, I would like to give a special thanks to the organizations that host this event, to the Alpha Lambda chapter of the Alpha Phi Alpha Fraternity Incorporated, and to the Alpha Lambda Education Foundation. Your dedication to aiding the greater good serves as an example, as a reminder of what is possible and what is needed for the progression of the quality of living for people of color, to give hope. And that is a theme for today. But what does it mean to give hope? Hope is a world-changing perspective, something that cannot be restrained or suppressed. When logic and reason are not on the side of hope, it continues despite them both. Hope is the warmth on a cold night. It is knowing that there will be light at the end of the tunnel. Hope is knowing that someday our dream will be a reality. Because hope is the belief that whatever is coming next is better than what came before. That our present conditions are not permanent conditions. As people of color, our past is filled with atrocities that have been committed against us. First, we were imports and property. Then we became second-class citizens. Even today, we still live in two separate Americas. For people who look like me and you, America has never been America for us. We have always lived in the other. But in our past, we have always been able to overcome our present conditions. Because we have been able to fight for our civil rights and liberties in the streets, in the courthouses, and in the hearts and minds of millions. All for the sake of our people's well-being, to secure our right to exist in this country. We've been able to because we could give rise to people who could give hope. August 28th, 1963, the March on Washington. Dr. Martin Luther King was given the last slot of the rally. No one expected much from this young man, despite his successes in Montgomery and in Birmingham. People were beginning to leave when King begun to spoke. It wasn't until Mahalia Jackson stood up and said, "Tell them about the dream." It was at that moment he abandoned the speech he had originally prepared and spoke from his heart. It was here he spoke about the black community's unrest with the present conditions of discrimination, prejudice, and sanctioned violence against black bodies. It was here King demanded the end of racial injustice. And it was here King shared his dream that America would one day hold true to its founding principles, that all men, not some men, not men we deem as important, that all men were created equal. King was able to manifest a shared vision, a shared dream among the people that heard him speak. And this vision spread like wildfire and galvanized the people. Empowered by this fiery passion of hope, King said that now was the time to strike, because we had no time to engage in the luxury of cooling off. From then on, we have accomplished much. We have black men and women as mayors, congressmen, CEOs, reporters, generals, teachers, lawyers, doctors, presidents, and vice presidents. Today, young black men and women can imagine themselves in any profession. We have created inventions that have revolutionized our way of life and would make daily life impossible without. We have built great institutions, businesses, and colleges that have withstood the test of time. But despite all of these causes of celebration, we must ask ourselves, are we satisfied with everything that we have made? Has the dream and the promises that were spoken to us been fulfilled? Has Dr. King's dream been realized? We have had progress. We have moved forward in claiming rights and privileges that were previously inaccessible to us. And we have worked to close the gap between these two Americas. However, we cannot forget the original dream was racial equality. And we must not be satisfied with anything short of that. We cannot be satisfied as long as we are victims of police brutality, as long as the school to prison pipeline still exists, and as long as we have limited access to proper health care. For far too long, we have been systematically restrained from reaching further. But we are told we are free. Freedom does not equal accessibility. I'm a first-generation Haitian American. My mother and my father came to this country to build a life over again in a foreign land. They worked tirelessly at 2 to 3 jobs each to give my sisters and I everything and every opportunity imaginable. And because of that, I was able to go to the best public and private schools. But the older I got, the more I noticed that I was one of a few, or the only black kid in these spaces. Even now in college, I am the one of the few, or the only, rarely the many. The sad fact is that this is not an uncommon story. Minorities have had to prove themselves flawless just to get a chance to pursue more. How many times have you heard you have to work twice as hard to get half of what they have? We are an educated and motivated collective. We recognize that our present conditions are unacceptable. So again, I say to you, we have no time to engage in the luxury of cooling off. Those who came before us crawled, so we may walk. Let us walk further down this path so our children can run. Run free. Run uninhibited and unrestrained. Let these problems be problems of the past so that they may truly be limitless. Now is the time for dreamers to once again arise and share their dreams, to not only to continue to fight for the dream that brother Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. shared, but to expand on it, to address the injustices plaguing our communities, to reevaluate the needs of Black and brown people today, all over this world. We must give rise to hope, so it may shake and rattle this nation, no, this world to its core. Let's reach across the aisle, because together, and only together, can we put an end to discrimination, to prejudice, to double standards, and to aggression in its many forms. My dream is to live in a world where we don't fear cultural differences, where we celebrate them. We work together. We work together for a common good and not individual goals. And we respect our fellow humans. King said, throughout the deepest valleys and the highest mountaintops, freedom will ring. But now, we must make our message known across oceans, across borders, regardless of nation. Let every man, woman, and child know that the world is changing, that it is growing, that we have no room for intolerance. We have no room for arrogance. We have no room for ignorance or hatred of any kind. A new world era is approaching, and we cannot stop. We will not stop until we are all free.
Thank you so much for those words, Edler. We laid my grandfather to rest yesterday. He was 75 years old, born in 1945. He went to an all-Black high school. And, when we think about the Dr. King holiday, it became a holiday officially observed in '86. And that was not that long ago. And I think about my grandfather who went to this all-Black high school and how proud he was to see his granddaughter on the news, to see his granddaughter in this position, and to know that there was a time not long ago that that was not the case. And so thank you so much for the reminders that we still have a long way to go and the fight for justice is never over. So real quick, we want to acknowledge some people because we're doing some giveaways today. And the first prize goes to Terrell Malone Jr. So he's a scholarship recipient with the highest GPA, and he is getting a gift card of his choice. You can come on up, and you get to pick. So I think there's a few over there. There you go. Thank you. Congratulations. And we have several more giveaways, so stick around. We've got a few more to give after that, but I would next like to call Justice Angela McCormick Bissig.
Good morning. My name is Angela McCormick Bissig, and I lost my voice this morning. So as Tori Murden McClure, who's seated with me, said, no one is ever upset about a short speech. I am so honored to be here this morning, and I was really looking forward to being here with you this morning. I share a little of Congressman McGarvey's sentiment. I want to thank Alpha Phi Alpha and Ed Goins, who asked me to be here with you this morning. And it is intimidating, and I do feel not worthy to be up here speaking, except that I come from our third branch of government. I come from the court system. I come from the justice system, along with my sisters on the bench, if you'll stand again, Denise Brown and Tracy Davis. You know, those of us in that third branch of government can be frustrated because we aren't in the political machine the way our congressmen or our mayor or our senators or our Metro Council members. We don't make the law. So when I come out and speak, I'm usually not able to say, here's what the law ought to be. What I do is I take the law and I apply it to individual citizens and people and their issues and their problems. And that's humbling. It's very humbling. It's humbling when we see social justice movements and civil unrest, and we, in the judicial branch, sit back and wait until those issues come to us. And I ask my colleagues to stand because the first quote that I want to give from Dr. Martin Luther King, who we are honoring today, is that true peace is not merely the absence of tension. True peace is not merely the absence of tension. True peace is the presence of justice. We all have to live in a society where we believe our laws are being applied fairly to everyone, regardless of your socioeconomic status, regardless of the color of your skin. And it's important that as a justice system that we be here to listen to you, Elder, and your motivational words, and to listen to the experience of our friends and our neighbors that we may not talk about on a regular day at work, but that we need to be aware as a lived experience day in and day out. And Martin Luther King said, "May I stress the need for courageous, intelligent, and dedicated leadership, leaders of sound integrity, leaders not in love with publicity, but leaders in love with justice." So again, even though I feel a little trepidation being here today, I am very honored to bring greetings from our justice system and some words as we today all across America celebrate the legacy of Dr. Martin Luther King. And one of the things I ask myself, can you all hear me okay? One of the things I asked myself as I was preparing, thinking about the legal side, and we all know about the Civil Rights Act and the Voting Rights Act, but I wondered what Martin Luther King's relationship was with Thurgood Marshall. As you all know, Thurgood Marshall was the first Black member of our United States Supreme Court. And so I got to wonder, did those two men know each other? Did they work together? Did they strategize? So I did some reading about Dr. King and Thurgood Marshall. Dr. King was 21 years younger than Thurgood Marshall. Thurgood Marshall believed in trying to right the world and make it a better place through the use of our justice system, through the use of our legal system. Pardon me. In 1948, Marshall successfully won the case of Shelley versus Kramer, which did away with restrictive covenants in housing. In 1950, Thurgood Marshall won the case of Sweat v. Painter, which ordered the admission of Black students at the University of Texas Law School. 1950, think how recent that was, the admission of Black students at the University of Texas Law School. But this is one of the cool moments. There's several of you in the room, and I had the great honor of being named a Muhammad Ali Daughter of Greatness. And I know I have some sisters who are also, and they talk about Muhammad magic and Muhammad synergy. And when I was reading about these two leaders, I read that in 1954 was the year that that Thurgood Marshall achieved the ruling in the Great Brown versus Board of Education case that outlawed the massive and pervasive segregation that went on in our school system. And that very same year, 1954, was the year that Dr. King became minister of the Dexter Avenue Baptist Church in Montgomery, Alabama, which would ultimately give him his platform to move forward in the same year of Brown versus Board of Education. And although the two men differed somewhat in their strategies about how to approach desegregation, how to approach racial fairness, I learned in my research that in 1962, Dr. King wrote to President John F. Kennedy and asked and demanded that John F. Kennedy put Thurgood Marshall on the United States Supreme Court. That didn't happen. President Kennedy appointed Byron White to the seat that was open at that time. But later, in 1967, then President Lyndon Johnson appointed Thurgood Marshall to our United States Supreme Court. And it was 1 year later, in '68, that Dr. King left us and died. I thought it was interesting reading about the two men's approaches. Thurgood Marshall was winning cases and working through the system. Dr. King advocated the bus boycotts, the sit-ins, the nonviolent resistance to what he believed were unjust and unfair laws. And what a great set of bookends in working the system. Where does that leave us for today as a justice system? I have some of who I consider our partners here, Jarena Weathers with our Commonwealth Attorney's Office, Chief Villaroyale, and I've already talked about my colleagues. I think we all have a duty and a responsibility to continually examine our institutions. We can't point the fingers at each other. We can't say it's the prosecutors if they did it better. We can't say it's the police. I need to look at the justice system as a leader in our justice system. I need to look at our justice system daily, weekly, monthly, and yearly and see if things we are doing or things we are allowing to occur are part of the problem. And we all have that duty and responsibility moving forward. And I will close with my last Martin Luther King quote. And Congressman McGarvey, you already gave this quote, but I'm going to give it in the context in which Dr. King said the quote, because I think it's really uplifting. When our days become dreary, with low hovering clouds of despair, and when our nights become darker than 1,000 midnights, let us remember that there is a creative force in this universe working to pull down the gigantic mountains of evil. A power that is able to make a way out of no way and transform dark yesterdays into bright tomorrows. Let us realize that the arc of the moral universe is long, but that it bends towards justice. So I'm here today to say we realize we've come a long way. I believe our bench, both in our city and our state, is more diverse than it's ever been, but we still have strides to make. And I appreciate this gathering and I appreciate being included. And maybe it's a little Muhammad magic that I can't speak to you the way I want to. Maybe I need to understand what it's like to want to have a voice and not have one. Thank you all.
Wow. What a note to end on. Thank you, Justice Bissick, for that. Before we get to our next speaker, we are going to present our next prize, and that goes to the first Divine Nine group to purchase a table for the event, and that was the Eta Omega chapter of Alpha Kappa Alpha Sorority Incorporated. And everybody at the table gets a gift card, so how about that? Thank you again to all the D9 support. It really is amazing to see. Next, we would like to have Lanita Baker Esquire.
So the thing about going third as one of the primary speakers is that every time someone's gotten up and spoken, they've said a little bit of the speech that I prepared. And I think Congressman McGarvey must have been hacked into my computer because he took a lot of what I said. But as a lawyer, you learn to adjust, because I'm not going to make you all sit here and hear the exact same thing that everyone said, because there's so much more that can be said on this Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. Day. I want to start by saying good morning, because I skipped that. Greetings to Executive Director Goins and President Bell, and thank you to the Alpha Lambda Education Foundation and the men of Alpha Phi Alpha Fraternity Incorporated for having me speak this morning. It is truly an honor. Before I begin my speech, I have to, even though, as was earlier said, Morgan McGorvey says what, by our lovely MC, my soror, I have to say Happy Founders Day to my sorors of Alpha Kappa Alpha Sorority Incorporated. Faith, leadership, service. That is the theme for this morning's Hope Breakfast. And when you think about those words and you add in justice, that is truly the cornerstone of Dr. Martin Luther King's service to our community. As I sat and I listened to Adler, I got a little angry. And I got angry because his spoken of experiences are the same experiences that I had and I graduated from University of Louisville more than 20 years ago. And so when you think about that, he has the same experience of being one of few, never one of many, right? Those same experiences, 20 years later, 20 years before me, 20 years before that, this is a generational issue. And while we can talk about progress, we ought to be angry. Everyone in this room should be angry. That we haven't made that much progress. I almost said it's a false sense of progress, but I didn't want to take away from the work that has been done, because so many leaders in here have truly done work. But it's an exaggerated sense of progress. And until we acknowledge that, and until the people in this room, because we are a part of that talented tenth that have to save ourselves, right? The people in this room make up a part of that talented tenth. We are charged with saving ourselves. No one else is going to do it. So faith. Dr. King once said about faith, in the midst of outer dangers, I have felt an inner calm and known resources of strength that only God could give. In many instances, I have felt the power of God transforming the fatigue of despair into buoyance of hope. I know a little bit about that faith, because in 2020, I was in for the fight of my life in representing the family of Breonna Taylor. It was one of the scariest things I had ever done in my career. I'm like, what am I doing? Because not only was the city of Louisville relying on me, not just the city, but the world was looking at this case to see, what is this city going to do? And I felt to have that burden on my back, if I made one wrong step, it would have affected so many people. But then I go back, and while we thought we made so much progress, remember 2020 was the year of the racial reckoning, right? It was supposed to be the year of the racial reckoning, but we go back to that exaggerated progress. Because we saw the murders of George Floyd convicted and sentenced to lengthy prison sentences. We made progress. Justice is getting to where it needs to be. But then just only months ago to see one of the murders for Elijah McClain, a teenage boy who was murdered, get 14 months. We're not where we need to be. And we can't continue to rely on media, and we can't just get mad when it affects us, our community. If we're not paying attention to what's going on around the country, we're doing ourselves a disservice. We're not saving ourselves. Chaos or community Congressman McGorry said, which one are we going? Which one are we reaching, chaos or community? We're in the midst of chaos. It's not about where we're going. We're in chaos. You turn on the news, you see stripping back affirmative action. I like Dr. Jones. I know a lot of us follow his editorials. And we talk so much about, oh, we don't need affirmative action anymore. I'm a lawyer, and I know the number of lawyers in this country black lawyers in this country has not gone above 5%, whether it was before affirmative action or after affirmative action. We're still at really less than 5%. It's fewer. All we're doing is we're educating enough lawyers to replace those lawyers that are retiring or who are no longer with us. We're educating enough doctors to replace those black doctors that are retiring or no longer with us. We're not increasing our numbers, so I don't understand why we're running scared of affirmative action, why we're running scared of diversity, equity, inclusion. So while 2020 was supposed to be a year of racial reckoning, what we've seen since 2020 is direct attempts to strip back any progress that we've made. And I would be lying if I sit here and said I don't get discouraged. I told you all 2020 I was afraid, very afraid. But I go back to a great philosopher that goes by the name of Cat Williams, who recently said, he said, there's no such thing as a human being not being afraid. There are certain human beings that understand that being afraid in no way stops you from doing what you have to do. Y'all didn't know where I was going with that, did y'all? And that goes into leadership. True leadership, you're gonna be afraid. If you're leading for the right reasons, you're gonna be afraid. But you understand that faith that we first talked about, I think the book of James said, faith without works is dead, right? And so we have to continue to work. Being afraid doesn't stop you from doing the work. And everyone in this room has work to do. Sunny Hostin, our soror, recently said, she described what's happening in our country. I said it's chaos. She said, there's a deliberate destruction of our country's democracy, of its institutions, an intentional dumbing down of our electorate by erasing history. But they're not erasing our history. They're erasing our history. But that's not new. They've been erasing our history. While America loves Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. now, he went to jail 29 times. I'm just saying, they didn't like him then, right? They didn't like Muhammad Ali, who has a birthday. Our own, Louisville's own, has a birthday coming up in a couple of days. They didn't like him, right? But now, America loves them, right? Because they've done so much, and they have done so much. But let's not forget that while they were here and doing the work that they needed to do, and they were vocal about the work that needed to be done, they tried to silence them too. We should have been mad. Not mad now because they're trying to take out critical race theory. Critical race theory's never been in schools, right? When you really think about what critical race theory is. But we should have been mad when we learned in school that the civil rights, or the Civil War was started to end slavery. We know. I didn't know that when I was learning it, that it wasn't started. Abraham Lincoln, he was a savior, freed all the slaves. But not because he wanted to, because that was the result, right? That was the result from that war. But never think that that war was began. I got mad, not recently, a few years ago when I went to go see Harriet. Love Harriet. We learned about Harriet Tubman, but I thought she was an old woman going all the way from Alabama to the north. When I learned, oh, that the Underground Railroad was in Baltimore. To me, the Baltimore's north. So slavery wasn't just down south, right? So when they always taught history, if we haven't taught it to ourselves, and let's be honest, some of us haven't taught it to our next generations the way that we need to. And that's some of the problems right now. We haven't taught that history. And we can't rely on school systems. So we should have been mad, like they've been taking out black history because they haven't taught us the true black history. Remember Rosa Parks, she was old too, right? No. And she wasn't just tired, that was strategic. And so when we go back to leadership, we talk about strategic leadership. It's not about just, let me go out here and lead. And that's what I think that we lose a lot of today is the strategy. When the civil rights movement first started, and I say first started because if you don't believe we're still in the civil rights movement, yeah, we are still in the midst of the civil rights movement. We've never reached the point that we were supposed to reach with the civil rights movement. So when it first started, everything they did was strategic. From the Montgomery boycotts, from the going to the voting polls. Yes, they knew they were going to jail, but they knew that they had to do it to make it better for future generations. And then somewhere we got comfortable. We got a little money, we got great jobs, we got comfortable. And so, one of my favorite quotes from Dr. Martin Luther King on leadership. We all have that drum major instinct. We all want to be important, to surpass others, to achieve distinction, to lead the parade. And the great issue of life is to harness that drum major instinct. It is a good instinct if you don't distort it or pervert it. Don't give it up. Keep feeling the need for being first. But I want you to be first in love. I want you to be first in moral excellence. I want you to be first in generosity. So it's not just about leading. It's not just about having that drum major instinct. True leadership is not forcing your will on others. It's not about shine. True leadership is about service. It's about teamwork, the collective. Leadership is about lifting others. And when you have a strategy, others don't mind following. Service. As I look out in the crowd, I see a room full of my Divine Nine sisters and brothers. I don't have to speak about service. We know about serving our communities. But Dr. King said when we're doing that service, we have to rise up with greater readiness. We have to be more prepared, knowing what is it that our community truly needs. He said, let us move on in these powerful days, these days of challenge to make America what it ought to be. We have an opportunity to make America a better nation. We have to force it. America's not going to do what it needs to do without us pushing them. And y'all know when I'm saying us, I'm talking about Black people and our allies, because we do need our allies in this fight. Justice. It's not always easy. And I'm not going to go too much into justice because I think Justice Spisak did a very good job in talking about the justice system. As a lawyer, I always say, and this is one quote that I always begin my speeches with when I'm talking to lawyers. It's Charles Hamilton Houston. Great. He is a mentor to Thurgood Marshall. So when we hear about Justice Thurgood Marshall, without Charles Hamilton Houston, there would be no Justice Thurgood Marshall. And he said, a lawyer is either a social engineer or a parasite on society. But I'm going to take it further because I don't think that's limited to lawyers. It's limited to the full talented 10th. If you have knowledge that our community can benefit from and you're not using it, you're a parasite on society. And so let's everyone be social engineers. And so I'll start to close with the justice quote, because, you know, it's Dr. Martin Luther King Day. He says, whenever you take a stand for truth and justice, you're allowable to scorn. That means doing the right thing is not always easy. Doing the right thing may cause you some negative impacts. But if doing the right thing is necessary, we have to do it. Otherwise, we're going to be sitting here in another 20 years hearing someone in Edler's seat give the exact same speech that Edler gave. And we have to end that. It's time to stop it, and it takes all of us to do that. And so it's time for unity.
Thank you, Lanita, for your powerful words. We are going to give away another prize now. This is our third prize, and it goes to the first corporate sponsor to purchase a table, and that was Republic Bank. And last but not least, certainly not least, I would like to invite Senator Gerald Neal.
Hello. I never know how I'm going to start a speech. Today it's a hello. You know, the reality is speaking last is good news and bad news. It's good news because everything I was going to say, of course, has been mentioned, has already been said. It's bad news because I still have something to say, and I may be here a little long. So I apologize up front. I want to thank my friends who are in the field of service, my fellow legislators, whether they're on local, state, or federal level. Also, my comrades in terms of the law, Judge Bissig and my good friend Lanita Baker, and others that are in this room. And I want to thank you too. I want to thank you for being here because it reflects your concern and your support in what we need to do as a people, as a community going forward. You know, I want to bring greetings from the General Assembly, and I'm going to do something a little different here today. I'm going to speak in the context of the General Assembly because it's something that's going on right now and it's something we need to deal with. So I want to thank Alpha Phi Alpha Fraternity Incorporated, its leadership, for organizing this every year, giving a platform for us to deal with these issues. And if you don't mind, I'm going to put on my glasses. I have some points I did want to make, and I want to say to you that it is a great honor to serve in the capacity of the Kentucky State Senator of the 33rd District. In fact, you're sitting in the 33rd Senatorial District, so welcome. I want to point out also that it's a great honor that my members asked me to give leadership to our group of individuals that are Democrats. You know, that's a very difficult environment. In fact, most of what we do, you probably don't know much about. You see us going back and forth. We're talking in very complex terms. We're dealing with different issues all the time. Most of what we do, we're talking to each other behind the scenes. We're talking to others. We're gathering information. And as a matter of fact, sometimes we start at one point and we end up at another. Sometimes you go into that environment and you think you have a winner. You have it all laid out. You've talked to everybody you need to talk to. It goes nowhere. I remember one time I had an issue I was dealing with and I thought it was just going to fly away. But it took me 7 years to pass that particular bill. I tell you this because most people who do not function in that environment, and most people do not, do not understand the difficulty of what takes place there, the complexities of what takes place there, the tenuous situation that you're functioning in. People who are just as skilled, just as purposeful, who have different backgrounds, have different cultural orientations, experiences that militate sometimes against your own, and yet you have to come back the next day and deal with something else. It's a difficult environment. I want to share that with you. The other thing I want to convey is that there are great opportunities taking place, even in this legislative session. You may have heard, or you may not realize, that right now we have more money in Frankfort, in the Commonwealth, that we have control over. When I say we, the majority lays the process, and I'm not in that majority. But we have more money than we have ever had historically in the Commonwealth at our hands, at our fingertips right now. Not only that, we're in a period of economic growth, extraordinary economic growth. This is a great moment for the Commonwealth of Kentucky, believe it or not. And yet, at the same time I speak, we are also in a period of great division across this country and in this Commonwealth. So it's very important that Alpha Phi Alpha Fraternity Incorporated and other organizations and initiatives step forward to address issues of concern. It's very important. But I want to point out to you that it would be a shame, and I want to point out to you very clearly, that we're not going to take advantage of everything this session, even though we have the capacity, because we have philosophical differences in Frankfort. I cannot make that change. I can only voice your concern. I can only articulate what those possibilities may be. But those who are in control, which is the other party, who sets the agenda, is going to restrict some of that money. That doesn't mean they're bad people. I want to get this clear. They're making their judgments for their reasons. They feel differently, perhaps, on some issues. But the fact of the matter is that they're going to do what they're going to do unless you step forward, unless you engage, unless you use every little bit of your influence, our great influence, to make that change and voice your concern. It's all about engagement. It's not just about, in a representative democracy, that you elect or select someone to represent you. You have a role too. So I'm here to challenge you. I'm here to make you aware. I'm here to reinforce what you really already know, is that you are what it's all about. And you leaders can make the difference. I'm asking you to engage. We're now in the General Assembly session, the regular session, as we call it, the budget session. And I want you to know that we do this every 2 years, and we mess with money all the time. But the fact of the matter is, I bet most people in here do not know what those opportunities are or how to engage the process. I'm asking you to do an investigation. I'm asking you to reach out to me. I will respond. I'm asking you to learn more about this process and engage. And if there's anything else I can leave here with that will be useful, it will be you responding to this call. It's always the moment, and the moment is now. So be happy, be positive. I am. This is a period of opportunity. Great things are happening in the Commonwealth of Kentucky. We're going to do great things this legislative session. And keep in mind, contrary to what most people believe, maybe 90 to 93% of what we do, we agree on in Frankfort. Think about that. 92 to 93, maybe sometimes 95%, but we do have some differences. So, where are we? We're living in a period of reaction. And you only have to go back to, let's say, slavery, and what happened after emancipation. There was reaction. Next thing you knew, there was what? The black codes, controlling the bodies and minds and the futures and possibilities of people of color, African Americans, black people. And then what happened? It went further and ended up in what? Systematically developing a segregated society. Why? To control, to take those who are others, utilize them and or keep them less than for their own purposes. Then what happened? We went farther. We went into the civil rights movement. I'm jumping over a lot because there's been action and reaction all the way through history as it relates to us. And what happened? Immediately upon the word affirmative action coming out of one's mouth, we got what? Reaction. And right now, they've gotten even a little more sophisticated in the reaction. They've got their handle on this thing. And I'm going there because there's an area I want to delve into a little bit that concerns me tremendously and should concern you, and I know it does. Because right now, in Frankfort, Kentucky, there are bills on the table. And I'm just taking one example, well, two. Senate Bill 6, Senate Bill 93, and their counterparts in the House of Representatives. I want you to understand that Senate Bill 6 poses a risk to rights that you would suspect in terms of free expression. Right now, Senate Bill 6, our colleges and universities have always been places where diverse thoughts and debates flourish. But Senate Bill 6 is postured to suppress that free expression right now in your legislature. Who in here knows about Senate Bill 6? A few hands. I ask you to look out for that Senate Bill 6 because the bill risks imposing censorship and limiting these essential freedoms. It's not about safeguarding free thought. Instead, it's about unwarranted legislative interference in academic matters where intellectual freedom should reign supreme. Think about that for a moment. In our colleges and universities, a legislature is considering suppressing free thought and diverse exchanges, even controversial exchanges. Furthermore, the bill's vague language, particularly terms like divisive concept, they use terms like that. What is a divisive concept? That's anything you disagree on. But it uses this vague language, hopefully, and I'm sure to get constitutional challenges, but it creates room for arbitrary and subjective enforcement. This directly conflicts with the Equal Protection Clause of the 14th Amendment. And vagueness in law leads to unequal and discriminatory practices, undermining justice and equality before the law. Additionally, this bill's provisions that allow individuals to sue educational institutions and waive foreign, sovereign, and governmental immunity are alarming. Such measures open the door to countless lawsuits, which may not only be frivolous, but also challenge the legal protections traditionally granted to state entities. So think about it. When you think about the University of Kentucky or the University of Louisville, you think about Pan-African Studies programs, anything of this nature, Senate Bill 6 becomes a threat to us all. It really becomes a threat fundamentally to democracy itself. Likewise, in our K-12 institutions, Senate Bill 93 poses to set us back. It is a direct attack on diversity, equity, inclusion, and yes, belonging. You see, as they define that here, it's not just DEI, it's also B, belonging. Senate Bill 93 mischaracterizes what diversity, equity, inclusion, and belonging programs are and do. These programs bring everyone together in a sense of understanding and community, and those who function in that context know exactly what I mean. They recognize and appreciate our differences without trying to make any group feel superior or inferior. In fact, they emphatically push back on the notion of supremacy. I know this because I used to teach in the Pan-African Studies Department at the University of Louisville. I knew the colleagues that did the same thing. I was in the private conversations about objectives and sharing ideas. But they would have you believe, right now, legislation on the table, that something is fundamentally wrong with sharing ideas, understanding each other, exploring our differences, and yes, creating a place of belonging. This bill makes the perverse assumption that you can't lift up one group without harming another, and as we know, that's a false narrative. This bill aims to treat everyone the same. That sounds good, doesn't it? And pretend that differences don't exist and shouldn't exist. In doing so, it gives preferential treatment to those who have traditionally been at the top of hierarchy and lessens the identity of anyone who isn't. This is truly what divides us in the society. Yes, we have a divided society. And yes, we are in a period of reaction. Senate Bill 93 would ban any program that acknowledges that diverse student bodies have diverse needs and need diverse resources to succeed. Listen to what I just said. Senate Bill 93 would ban any program that acknowledges that diverse student bodies, which we have diverse needs and need diverse resources to succeed. Isn't that what we are about? Creating an environment and a context by which young people and older people can thrive, perform, enjoy life, move forward, creating a better society. Is that not what this is about? If it's not, then what is it about? Students need to belong somewhere. If you want them to succeed academically, that must be so. They need to feel they belong at their school. If they don't, they'll find that sense of belonging elsewhere, and that can lead to negative consequences. That is what these programs do in a nutshell. Take our own JCPS. Is it perfect? No. What is? But it has made significant gains as a result of its programs now. And the proof is in the pudding. We know that it's heading in the right direction. It can be quantified. And yet these forces of reaction would ignore that. They would begin a discussion about splitting up our school system. Just think about that. There's a bill out there where they want to do what? Let's study whether to split Jefferson County public school system. It's not a bill that says, let's find a way to uplift. Let's find a way to support. Let's find a way to make stronger and make sure each child has a chance at life in the way that the people in this room have had. And yet, they start with the premise, we need to study whether to split it up. What do you think that is? What do you think that is? That's someone in the back of their mind thinking about how do I take as opposed to how do I give? And that's not what we should be about. The improvements that are going on now in these schools, and anybody that knows me knows I'm not one that runs around celebrating the greatness of JCPS. I celebrate the greatness of teachers. I think teachers are key. And we misjudge our value and our opportunity when we do not raise teachers' salaries to make them competitive with other states and across this nation. That's ridiculous. At a time when we have more money in our hands in the legislature. I'm not just talking about one-time money. I'm talking about money that can take care of recurring expenses. As if we can't meet the future and plan for the future and deal with what recurs. That's what we've been doing all along. That's what we do. That's why we have baselines in terms of stuff that gets automatically covered the next budget period. We create that capacity. And here we have the opportunity, and yet, as I've told you, what we're doing. Senate Bill 93 could eliminate successful JCPS programs in schools like Grace James Academy of Excellence and the W.E.B. Du Bois Academy. I could go on and on at a number of these initiatives that are taking place that serve our young people, that strengthen our young people, that enable our young people to lay a platform for greatness. Greatness, not mediocrity or failure, but for greatness. The bill prohibits school districts from any program that seeks to increase outcomes or participation by any particular group. So it would ban any program directly aimed at eliminating the achievement gap. Think about that. Think about that. It would ban any district efforts to increase minority participation in any academic or career track program, stifling efforts for Louisville minority communities to grow their own. Specifically, it would ban minority teacher recruitment, which I've been historically very much involved in, which is so necessary in a majority minority district. It would essentially ban student groups aimed at minority students like black student unions and other initiatives. Think about that. That's what's going on in your legislature. Despite all the good things I could stand here and tell you are happening, that I think would happen. Even consideration for strengthening and putting Kentucky State University on a strong track, which I work very diligently at. But it will not automatically happen unless what? Unless all of us, including you, engage. This session, not after we're gone, but this session. The bill bans implicit bias training. Think about that, which is crucial to ensuring that teachers value all students and create an environment where they can all achieve. Now, somebody used the words up here, ignorant, a little bit earlier. That's ignorant. Oh, don't let me get loose here. So here's the main takeaway. The main takeaway is Senate Bill 93 tells schools to eliminate the achievement gap, but then takes away the strongest tools to do so. That's like telling me to drive from Pikeville to Paducah without allowing me to fill up my gas tank. I may get lucky and achieve it, but it's so much less likely to happen without the proper supports. I think you would agree. So this is where we are, in short. It is critical that you engage. I'm not here to soup you up. I'm here to speak to you in a sober way, to share real information, something that's happening in real time, something that you can do something about. You can do something about. All of you can do something about. I'm asking you to engage. It is critical that you engage the General Assembly this session. I'm here to say to you that we must pay attention to what is going on in Frankfort. We must focus our efforts while we are in session. We must engage. Lastly, we become stronger by working together. We are weaker when we do not purposefully come together. It's easy to criticize. It's easy to challenge each other. It's easy to tear down. It's hard to build up. And guess what? We're weaker for it. We must come together. We must communicate effectively. We must share ideas. We must give room for people to express themselves. We should let young people, and guess what? Old people too. Of course, now I'm in the young group. 39 years old. So what I'm saying here is this. We shouldn't draw lines between us, create barriers between us. We should be building bridges. We should be locking arms and hands. We should be appreciating and respecting the thoughts and aspirations of each of us. We should share and communicate effectively. I stand before you to encourage you to come together and supporting one another for the good of our community.
Senator Neal, thank you for that reminder that we need to always pay attention to what is happening, especially in Frankfort, because there are a lot of distractions out there, social media and Real Housewives and all those things that the folks like. All right, we're moving along now to our scholarship presentations. I would like to invite Brother Michael Crawford up to present those scholarships.
Well, good morning. I am Michael T. Crawford. I'm actually the Assistant Executive Director of the Education Foundation. And it's been a great morning. I wonder if we could turn the lights up just a little bit so we could see the scholarship recipients. I am thrilled to announce this year's scholarship recipients. Each student demonstrated exemplary academic performance, and they're committed to going to the next level in their education. So as I call your name, thank you very much. Wow. Hold on, let me tell my, yeah. Y'all look good. All right. As I call your name, please come forward. The first recipient is Jeremiah Bradley. He attended Central High School with a GPA of 3.16 and plans to attend Clark Atlanta University, majoring in business. All right, next up is Emery Brookins. Attended Male High School with a GPA of 3.2 and is interested in going to either NYU, Western Kentucky, University of Cincinnati, UK, or DePaul. Plenty of choices. Seeking a Bachelor in Fine Arts in Film. Next up, Dejan Cooper. Attended DuPont Manual High School, had a GPA of 3.9. I wish that was my GPA. All right, he's planning to attend Tuskegee University and with a focus study on animal, poultry, and veterinary science. Next up is Terrell Malone Jr. Attended Male High School, and I think you already know he had a high GPA because he got the gift card, 4.17. He is interested in attending the University of Louisville, and wait for it, or the University of Kentucky. All right, seeking a major in mechanical engineering. Next up is Tyron Porter. Attended Central High School with a GPA of 3.73 and is planning to attend Morehouse College with a major in, you got to get that smile over there. Get the smile, let's get the smile. All right, we know Morehouse is great. Let's get that smile. All right, majoring in biology. Next up is Jamel Smith, who cannot be here this morning, but we do want to recognize him. He attended Central High School with a GPA of 2.85, is going to go to the University of Louisville, focusing on marketing. Let's give him a round of applause. Next up is Christopher Thompson. Attended Ballard High School with a GPA of 3.53. Planning to attend Florida A&M, which is a little warmer than here, and is going to major in business and accounting. Next up is Ashton Tunstall. Attended Central High School with a GPA of 3.78. Planning to attend Eastern Kentucky University, focusing on emergency medical care. All right, let's give them all another round of applause. We look forward to all the great things that they're going to accomplish, and I think our future is looking bright.
And we also have 2 awards we would like to present. The first one is the Lyman T. Johnson Torchbearer Award. And the Frank L. Stanley Senior Leadership Award.
Good morning. You all do look amazing. I want to hopefully put a friend of mine just on notice and make her a little nervous this morning, okay? So, and that person is Tori Murden McClure. So I'm humbled to present this award for our Lyman T. Johnson Torchbearer Award. For one, I get to present it to one friend from another friend, being Lyman Johnson, who I was able to meet with and talk with and transport across the state from time to time. So I know he would be super happy that Tori Murden McClure is getting this award. He would fully approve and be happy for how she has fought for education, how she has supported the community, and how she has stepped up as a leader of leaders. The Louisville community is totally better because of people like Tori Murden McClure. She has given support to women, countless young people, students, and has given her all throughout this community. She has served on numerous boards. I dare not begin to list that list. Is the current president, if you all don't know, of Spalding University, and has been a champion for students since her awakening as a leader at the Louisville Collegiate School, where she began her lifelong journey as an educator. Her upbringing molded her to be strong for herself, for her family, and for her community. President McClure's personal position toward education is clear as an indication of her passion. Her pursuit of 4 distinct degrees is an example of her walking the walk of a lifelong educator. This in itself was a way she worked to break the status quo. She completed a bachelor's degree in psychology at Smith College, a Master of Arts in Divinity from Harvard University, a Juris Doctorate from the University of Louisville, and a Master of Fine Arts from the Spalding University. It's not easy to challenge the status quo, but this is where she lives all the time. She's giving inspirational keynotes across the country, inspiring her students within the university. Her efforts to use her platforms to boost minority and marginalized populations is totally appreciated. President McClure also championed the idea a long time ago, back in 2012, when a young person, Ron Jackson, who was on staff at Spalding, came to her and said, "What if we partnered together to host the first Martin Luther King breakfast here in the city of Louisville?" Her first word was yes. And not only did she help sponsor, but she also allowed many of her staff members to support that event to ensure that we had our first successful event in 2013. Was it cold that morning? Of course it was. Just as it was today, knowing that this is the time of year when we get to celebrate that. But that was the beginning, and it's amazing to know that we're now at our 11th year anniversary of this event. Oh, and I probably should mention, if you all don't know, she rowed a boat across the Atlantic Ocean. So, if that doesn't tell you she's courageous, I don't know what does. I'm going to stop there. I don't want to make her too much more nervous about coming to the podium, but please welcome my friend, President Tory Murd McClure, to the stage, our 2024 Lyman T. Johnson Torchbearer Award.
Ron Jackson told me I could have 2 minutes to speak, and I thought I knew what I was going to say. But all I know for sure is I have not done enough. And I was the first full-time employee of the Muhammad Ali Center, and I'm very proud of that. And in that time, I worked really hard to read every book I could get my hands on about Muhammad Ali. And recently, there was the Ken Burns documentary on Muhammad, and I didn't like it very much. But anyway, I got to be part of a panel discussion on it, and I thought, well, I should see if there are any new books. And I found this one, and it was published in the 1970s. And I couldn't find it when I worked for him. Muhammad Ali, The Greatest My Own Story. It was written with the help of Richard Durham, and it is in our public library in a non-circulating collection. We don't know Black history because it's locked in a room. And I went, there's a book about Lyman T. Johnson written by Wade Hall. It's in the public library, in the non-circulating collection. Young man, don't read that book. It's too dangerous for you. It talks about white people using the N-word, talks about police being brutal. It actually also tells a story about policemen doing the right thing, because they do. And he recognizes it, and he says it in the book. He writes that, I will be brief, he wasn't allowed to use the library in Columbia, so okay, well, we've made some progress. You can use the library, you just can't get to the books that you ought to be reading. He writes, when Black men and white women get too close, there's bound to be an explosion. I want you to know I'm not that kind of white woman. He writes, don't scratch me too hard, the scars are still there, the scars will bleed. And I too have some scars. When I was rowing across, oh, by the way, 35 years ago, I was about 35 miles from the South Pole. It was cold. On the Atlantic Ocean, whenever I was really, really angry, the dolphins would come. I don't know why, I can't explain it, but the dolphins would come. In civilization, when I can't figure out how to navigate the rage, it has been Black men who have come and given me maps to navigate the rage. I was a student at Harvard, Reverend Dr. Peter Gomes, Black, gay, Republican at Harvard. There was only one, Peter Gomes. Taught me how to navigate the rage, and in that tantrum, I skied to the South Pole. I went to work for Muhammad Ali. That tantrum, I rode across the Atlantic Ocean. So you see, I have trouble navigating the rage, but I want to thank you all today, because it is the Divine Nine, it is breakfasts like this that give the maps to young people to help them navigate their rage. And I'm white. For me, navigating the rage is, I don't know, a couple times a decade. I'm in one of those rages now. And I know for too many of you, navigating the rage is called Tuesday. And I have not done enough to earn this award, but I promise I will do better. I will promise I will spend the rest of my life trying to live up to Dr. Lyman Johnson, and Senator Neal, if you need a president on Senate Bill 6, I am your president.
And our next award is the Frank L. Stanley Senior Leadership Award. Brother Eric French.
Good morning. Ed Goins told me that this is not a Baptist funeral. So 2 minutes means 2 minutes. So having said that, I simply want to say thank you. I want to thank the Alpha Lambda Educational Foundation and the Alpha Lambda chapter of Alpha Phi Alpha Fraternity Incorporated for this incredible award. Frank L. Stanley Sr. was a transformational figure in the city, state, and nation. And he was a giant in the house of Alpha. He exemplified the aims of this great fraternity: manly deeds, scholarship, and love for all mankind. And I am humbled and undeserving of this award, so I say thank you. I also want to thank my friend and brother, Leardis Allen, who thought enough of me to nominate me for this award. And I also want to thank my lovely wife, Kim, who's actually in Thailand right now, and she's watching through WhatsApp. So I want to say I love you. I appreciate your support because she gives me space not to be strong. And that's important for a black man to have, a place where he doesn't have to be strong. And so I'm grateful for that. And lastly, I want to thank my mother, Sandra French. My mother died the week before Thanksgiving of a blood clot, and I was devastated. And today's her birthday. My mother was proud of me, and she supported me. She was the first person I told that God had called me to the ministry. And I told her that I wasn't going to do it. And I told her the reason I wasn't going to do it is because I was scared and I felt unworthy. And I still feel unworthy. And she said, "Son, there's something you got to understand. A minister is just an imperfect person preaching a perfect gospel. You must trust Jesus and believe in yourself and go." So I'm standing here 35 years later because Mama believed in me. She believed in what I could become and what I could do. And so for me, today, receiving this award is validation from God that my mother's trust was not misplaced in her son. So I accept this award on behalf of the greatest woman I've ever known, the one that gave birth to me, Sandra French. And so I say thank you to each and every one of you for bringing a little bit of joy to a very hard day. So may God bless you and keep you. Thank you.
We would like to conclude our program today with closing remarks from the Alpha Lambda Education Foundation Executive Director, Ed Goins Jr.
Good morning, everyone. As she stated, my name is Ed Goins Jr. I'm the Executive Director of the Alpha Lambda Education Foundation. I thank you for your presence here today. This room is full, except the politicians that left, but that's okay. We still love you. You still get our vote. We understand you got places to go and things to do. No, I'm just kidding.
We do thank you for joining us this morning. When I got in the car this morning, the temperature said 7. But as Alphas, we like the number 7. The Bible says the number 7 is a good and complete number, so it was all right. We all made it here safely, so that's good. Give me a round of applause for all our scholarship winners again. Congratulations to Terrell Malone Jr. I read your transcript, and we said that you had a 4.0, but I want y'all to understand that this young brother had a 4.0 every year in high school, freshman, sophomore, junior, senior, not one B, 4.0 every year. But I also want, when I talk about these scholarship recipients, you are very important. But there's also some people with you today that are very important. So the parents of these scholarship recipients, would you please stand so that we can salute you? Now, scholarship recipients, Jeremiah, Emery, Dazen, Terrell, Tyron, Christopher, and Ashton. Here's the important thing. When you go to college this fall, all right, your mom and your daddy ain't gonna be there telling you to do your homework, all right? So you're gonna have to figure out how to do it yourself, all right? All right, it's not hard. We have a lot of college graduates in this room. You can do it. We believe in you. We're proud of you, which is why we're giving you a check, all right? Because we believe in you and you can do it, all right? I also want to thank my MPHC, my D9 partners. If you're a member of an MPHC group with the exception of Alpha Phi Alpha, would you please stand? Thank you very much. I've said it before, if we don't support ourselves, we can't expect outside groups to support us. So thank you. I've got it in my notes, so I've got to say it. Happy Founders Day to my sorors of Alpha Kappa Alpha. And I don't have it in my notes, but my cousin tapped me on the shoulder and she said, you know, our Founders Day is tomorrow, so happy early Founders Day to Zeta Phi Beta. See, I'm trying to be good up here. But y'all gonna make me go another direction. If I call your name, will you please stand? Derek Bell, Cecil Brookins, Ron Jackson, Gerald Joyner, Lathan Logan, Charles Pipus, and Michael Crawford. This is my board. This is the board of directors of the Alpha Lambda Education Foundation. These brothers have allowed me to serve them as the executive director. And they pushed me, they challenged me all the way, but I appreciate it. And I love you, brothers. To my speakers, Edler, brother, great job. I'm proud of you. Did anybody help you write that speech? You don't have to say it. You're welcome. No, I'm just playing. Judge Angela, I nominated you to speak up here. I've known you for years, you and your husband. I'm glad you are where you are. You deserve it. I hope I never have to go before the Kentucky Supreme Court for any reason. But if I do, I'm glad that I will look up there and see your face. So thank you. Thank you. I appreciate it. Miss Lanita, thank you for being here today. You did a great job. And I thank you for your service to Louisville. I was fortunate enough to retire from Louisville Metro Police Department in 2020. And people say, oh, well, you retired because of all that, all that Breonna Taylor stuff. I said, no, I had nothing to do with it. I had 27 years. It was enough. I was trying to go do something else. But you were in the streets, and you were advocating. You were fighting for that young lady. And we can discuss the minutia of what happened during that event, but what we can agree on is that young lady didn't need to die that day. That's what we agree on. So I thank you for your leadership on that. And my good senator, you've been in the vineyard for many, many years. You've been a good worker. I appreciate you, and I thank you for your words and letting us know, the laws. As a former law enforcement officer, we had to enforce the laws that were on the books, whether we liked them or not.
but you know how powerful those laws can be. And now you all know some of the stuff that's going on in Frankfurt and why we have to keep fighting and advocating for what's right and what's justice. So I appreciate you, good Senator. And real quickly, I'm almost done. To my sponsors, my gold sponsor this year is my good friend Nicole Yates at Molina Healthcare. Please stand up. My silver sponsors, Dr. Mary Stoddard. Where are you, Mary? She's not here. Dr. Mary, well, I'm going to give her flowers anyway. Dr. Mary Stoddard. She supports every year. Brother Woolfolk, Brother Greg Woolfolk, Dr. Greg Woolfolk. Brother Leardis Allen and LG&E. Where are you? Stand up. Brown Foreman. Brown Foreman table. Yeah, there you are. Brother Pedro Bryant at Republic Bank. A side note, if you need a banker, Brother Summers right there that I grew up with, he's a good man and he'll take care of you, he'll take care of your money. So if you need a bank, see William Summers right there. Shameless promotion for you, but I got you, bro, I got you. Jessica Pendergrass at Heaven Hill. Are you here? Heaven Hill. Miss Carolyn Sandy at Humana. Miss Carolyn and Miss Dior. Miss Dior, are you over there? There you are. Okay, I see you. All right. And last but not least, KFC Yum. Kim, are you over there? Kim Bell? There you are. If you look on the center of your table, you'll see these beautiful centerpieces. We did not do those. That was done by Cherise LeMaster at LeMaster Events. She got on me because last year we had Christmas decorations and she said, y'all gotta get rid of those Christmas balls. I said, we didn't do it, the hotel did. They provide us for us. She goes, I'm gonna get you some new ones. So she and her team, Tabitha and Alika, they worked 3 or 4 hours yesterday putting those centerpieces on. Last but not least, I know I said that before, all my Alpha brothers, will you please stand? Thank you, my brothers, for supporting me, for supporting our events, for supporting our frat brother, Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. And also I want you to keep standing as we salute the oldest Alpha in the room, Brother George Currington. All right. Once again, thank you for your support of the foundation and the fraternity. Thank you for your support of Dr. King on his special day. Thank you for your support of these scholarship recipients and their families. I thank you for coming. I look forward to seeing you next year, and happy MLK Day.
1 second. We want to bless you before we leave. We have a benediction. That is Brother Reverend Dr. Bernard Creighton. There we go. Those roads can be icy. Let's just wait 1 second. Thank you all for having me today.
Father God, we thank you for all that has taken place today. We thank you for the encouragement for the journey. We thank you for the direction now as we depart this place and never for your presence. As we enter and continue to walk in 2024, allow us to be encouraged. Allow us to imagine. Allow us to be brave. Allow us to have strength so we can continue the well-conditioned fight. It is in the name of Christ that I pray. And together we all said, amen.